Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Konrad. I'm working at Cognizant Netcentric, and I'm going to talk about AEM encryption at build time. So just a short recap on what AEM encryption is. So there is a class called AEM Crypto Support, and that provides you with symmetrical AES encryption, basically based on a 128-bit key. It is used internally for lots of sensitive data, like passwords or secrets in general. The master key is usually auto-generated, and the whole thing is mostly obsolete. Because in AEM as a cloud service, you should no longer need that, at least not for OSGI services. End of the story? No, not quite. Unfortunately, it is still in use by some out-of-the-box cloud services. For example, dynamic media is one prominent example. And then there are some other third-party cloud services which still require that. And of course, there's still AEM 6.5 in also the upcoming new version, I guess. So how do secrets in general end up in AEM? Let's first have a look at the best case, basically. So the best case would be it is directly being injected. You can leverage that, as already said before, via OSGI configuration interpolation. So no need for encryption here at all. So this is the best case, but unfortunately, you cannot always go that route. So the kind of worst case scenario would be you have to integrate each encrypted value basically into your code. And that means really per environment, it has to be encrypted manually and then put in your Git repository. And then it's going through the regular build and deployment pipeline. And there's a third way, which is you basically injected during the build. So that means the encryption happens during the build. Obviously, the build needs to know which key to use. That is kind of obvious, but it doesn't require that you manually encrypt beforehand. Let's have a closer look in how this works. It leverages a feature from the Maven Firewall package plugin. So this supports since quite a while already a general Maven interpolation. So you can basically reference a particular Cloud Manager pipeline environment variable within your doc view files, for example, and they are getting replaced during the build automatically. What is pretty new, though, is the feature which was introduced in 1.4.0, and this one is filtering extensions. So it no longer supports only simple placeholder replacements, but you can put in some additional logic. One of these filter extensions ships with a product, which is basically allowing you to automatically escape values according to doc view. So you no longer need to deal with that beforehand. You no longer need to think about in which particular context is my secret being used. You just enter it with the tools or in the Cloud Web UI, and then you can consume it from doc view file vault files with this syntax here. And there's the possibility to hook into that basically and provide your own extensions. And one of that extensions is the so-called AEM Crypto Support wrapper. Not a pretty snappy name, I admit that, but still, what it does is it allows you to encrypt outside AEM, so basically outside an OSGI environment, and provides basically that file vault filtering extension. So you can do that encryption at runtime. At build time. The syntax looks as you can see it here. You have to make sure that you additionally attribute that accordingly, escape that accordingly. Otherwise, the special characters will not be correctly deserialized. It's open source on GitHub. Feel free to try it out. Some last words about the master key. So the master key is obviously crucial with the symmetrical encryption because you need it both for decrypting it, but you also need it for encrypting values. So obviously the tool also needs to have that. So the question is, how do I get that, or how do I set that? And that is different between AEM 6.5 and AEM as a cloud service. In general, best practice is to have a dedicated key per environment, but it should be shared between author and publish, because there's certain configuration you'd replicate over, and if you have different keys, it just won't work because the publish can no longer decrypt the encrypted value. In AEM 6.5 on-prem, you can basically configure what kind of master key should be used. In the past, it was very often persisted in the repository. That is still possible, but you have to explicitly enable that via environment variables. The recommended way is now via bundle context data, so it's basically stored within the file system. AEM as a cloud service is different, so there you do not have the possibility to affect the master key, but you can still extract it. I recommend the great Groovy console from Roy to do that. In the README in GitHub, there is some hints on how you can actually achieve that. Few words of warning. Basically, there is some limitations here when it comes to AEM as a cloud service, which is a bit unfortunate. There is, first of all, no dedicated pipeline variables which can be different between prod and stage, because they just share a pipeline, right? And the other limitation is you can also not use dedicated different content packages between prod and stage. But maybe in the future, there may be a way for lifting that limitation. Let's see. There is a workaround, which is already working right now, which is a bit nasty, but you can use Sling repo init, because Sling repo init relies on scripts inside OSGI configuration, and OSGI configuration can still be targeted towards a particular environment. However, I would recommend to only set those encrypted properties which are really different via this repo init, and not the full thing that you want to configure. For the rest, just use regular content packages. I cannot stress that enough. So obviously secrets are named secrets because they should not be exposed to everyone and not to every developer. So they should never be part of your regular Git code repository. So there's different features from different CI/CD environments, which basically allow you to configure that in a safe way. I mean, GitHub has something included. Cloud Manager comes with the pipeline secrets, and Jenkins has something similar as well. All have in common that they expose the secrets as environment variables during the build. So you can access that easily from within Maven, for example. Yeah, that was it. Some references where you can actually find it. Feel free and try it out.